Chapter 189. Gu Mengmeng looked at the male standing at the outskirts of Elvis's territory with large amounts of meat in their hands, as well as Sandy and Maya who were standing beside her. She did not answer Nina's question, but walked to Sandy and tidied her torn clothes and messy short hair. She sighed and said, "You are a bear after all. Why do you always look like you are in a worse state every time you fight with Nina? Don't tell me Nina's original form is a tiger or a lion." Sandy was more or less influenced by Gu Mengmeng recently and was no longer that afraid of Nina. Especially now that Gu Mengmeng was around, she became even more daring. She snorted at Nina and rolled her eyes before looking at Gu Mengmeng and said, "What lion or tiger, she is just a pheasant. She obviously can't fly, yet she still claims that she is a bird." Previously, she used the fact that Quentin was the only male in Saint Nazaire who could fly, so she swaggered around and made many unreasonable requests. But Leah and Elvis saw that she was a complete female and Quentin was indeed capable, so they satisfied her. Now that Quentin can't fly and she no longer has the title of the first beauty in the tribe, she still wants to bully others. "I won't tolerate it anymore." Gu Mengmeng nodded her head in relief, then patted Sandy's shoulder and said, "That's right. But next time, when you beat her up again, just transform and slap her to death with your bare paw. Don't give her a chance to whine, it's too noisy, understand?" Sandy blinked her eyes and looked at Gu Mengmeng, then at Elvis, before saying softly, "Saint Nazaire has a rule that we cannot kill our own tribesmen." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "When I said slap her to death, I was describing her to death, not really asking you to break her to death. It's not good to dirty your own hands. But breaking an arm or a leg is still possible. Isn't winter coming soon? Treat it as an additional dish." Once she said that, not only Nina, even Sandy looked at Gu Mengmeng with a horrified expression. Gu Mengmeng glanced at Nina, whose face had turned green from fright, thinking that this girl would not dare to casually provoke Sandy in the future. Then, he changed the topic and pulled Sandy's little hand to ask, "Do you also think that I'm wrong to tell the single males not to share food with the females?" Sandy shook his head and said, "I don't know what's right and what's wrong. I only know that I'll listen to what you say." Gu Mengmeng chuckled. She could not deny that Sandy's blind worship of Gu Mengmeng had fully satisfied her vanity. And this trust made Gu Mengmeng feel even more warm. Gu Mengmeng held Sandy's little hand and turned to look at Maya. "What about you? What do you think?" Maya was a little timid but obviously did not dare to express her true thoughts. She just bit her lower lip and moved closer to Gu Mengmeng, whispering, "I believe, you won't harm us. I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng nodded before turning back to face Nina. She smiled sarcastically and said, "So you're the only one who has an opinion?" Nina hardened her heart. This matter concerned the food for the winter. Even if she was afraid of Gu Mengmeng beating her, she could not back down. So she nodded her head firmly, silently imagining how tragic she must look at that moment. She was like a lone island in the vast ocean, not backing down no matter how the waves hit her. She must look extremely beautiful. All the males would instantly feel pity and admiration for her at that moment. However, she neglected an objective fact. That was, wherever Gu Mengmeng was, other than her own partners, no one would even look at her. Aside from the topic, regarding the question about Nina's original form, I saw all sorts of answers in the comments. The correct answer has been announced. Is there anyone who guessed correctly? Chapter 190. Gu Mengmeng hugged her shoulders and leaned into Elvis's arms. She leaned against Elvis's chest and stood there quietly without saying a word. "If you are unhappy, you can choose to leave Saint Nazaire," Elvis said coldly from above. Gu Mengmeng's lips curled up slightly. She had to admit that Elvis's attitude of standing firmly on her side without asking for right or wrong pleased her. Of course, she knew what a female meant to a tribe and she would not give up on a female so easily. Even if it was Nina, didn't she endure for so long for the development of Saint Nazaire? However, reasoning was one thing, and attitude was another. Gu Mengmeng had never liked to cause trouble for others. Since Elvis supported her unconditionally, she naturally would not make things difficult for him. So Gu Mengmeng gave Nina a way out of the embarrassing situation. Or you can ask your males to learn how to marinate meat with everyone else so that you can store enough food before winter arrives. Nina did not say a word. She just bit her lower lip and shook her head fiercely before taking a few steps to the side. Gu Mengmeng watched as the troublesome fellow walked away. She then waved at everyone, indicating that they could bring their own meat over. Although the males were not as orderly as the People's Liberation Army, they still stood in an orderly manner. They maintained a shoulder's distance from each other in front of Gu Mengmeng and waited for her next instruction. Gu Mengmeng took out the salt crystals that Elvis had crushed into powder and demonstrated how to marinate meat. Then, she pointed at the small mountain of salt crystals piled up in the open space and asked everyone to marinate it according to their own method. After everyone was done marinating, she then taught everyone how to use tree branches and vines to dry the meat in the shade. After explaining everything, Gu Mengmeng and Sandy interspersed themselves in between the males to give them appropriate guidance and correction. Although the males could not understand this strange method, how would they have the chance to interact so closely with the females? Just for this, it was worth it to starve to death during winter. What's more, these things were originally meant for the 4 females in the tribe, but now they had become his reserve rations. It was already good enough to have something to eat during the winter. Whether it tasted good or not, in fact, was not that important. Thus, the group of people began to marinate the meat in full swing, and then hung it up to dry. Everything seemed to be in order. Bah! The discordant voice sounded again. Gu Mengmeng did not even need to turn her head to know that the hoarse voice was Nina's doing. She looked back sharply and saw Nina spitting something on the ground, pointing at Quentin and scolding, "Why are you being picky?" It was disgusting. This is simply a waste of food. Don't you know that I already have very little food this winter? Are you trying to starve me to death? Gu Mengmeng wanted to speak up, but Sandy had told her not to interfere with other people's family matters. Zhou Yu was beating up Huang Gai. One was willing to take the beating while the other was willing to take the beating. What right did she have to say anything? Thus, Gu Mengmeng forced herself to pretend that she did not hear Nina's indirect scolding and continued to guide the other males to marinate the meat. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not have any reaction, Nina gave herself a thumbs up in her heart, feeling that she had the upper hand this time. But considering Gu Mengmeng's usual behavior of not making a fuss if she could make a move, Nina decided to stop while she was ahead. Thus, she shook her plump buttocks and one of her partners transformed into a beast for her to ride on. She said with her nose facing the sky, "Let's go home. Don't waste the food here. If you have the time, hurry up and help me catch more prey." "What are you wasting time for, Humph?" Aside from the topic, many times, the males say that we are pretentious. But what we are doing is just to see your accommodating attitude. When a girl is crying, no amount of reasoning is as effective as a hug. Chapter 191. Without Nina messing around, the pickling process went smoothly. Gu Mengmeng and Sandy brought Maya along to sit at the side and chat. It was around noon when Barit and Colin came back. The 2 of them were almost buried by the potatoes. From afar, it looked like 2 piles of potatoes had turned into spirits and were walking towards them. After they put down the potatoes, Colin walked towards Gu Mengmeng with a red face. He took out something from behind and passed it to Gu Mengmeng. "This was accidentally plucked when I was plucking the potatoes. I've tried it and it's very delicious too. Do you want it?" Gu Mengmeng's eyes brightened. She patted Colin's shoulder. "Not bad, Colin. You even managed to find it. Where did you find it? Are there many?" Seeing that Gu Mengmeng liked it, Colin smiled till his eyes were squinted. He scratched his head. "It's just beside the potato field. It's not too far away. It's not as many as the potatoes, but it's not too little either." Gu Mengmeng held on to Colin's hand excitedly. "Bring me to take a look, all right?" Colin's face turned even redder. He turned his face to the other side. He lowered his head and peeked at Gu Mengmeng from the corner of his eyes. Then, he nodded. Gu Mengmeng was so happy that she jumped on the spot. She leaped onto Elvis. "Elvis, let's go pluck some sweet potatoes. Elvis naturally followed Gu Mengmeng's wishes. He brought her towards the direction of the potato field. Barit followed behind them. As Colin was busy taking deep breaths, he walked slightly later. Just as he was about to leave, he realized that a corner of his beast-skin dress was being pinched by Sandy. Colin tilted his head and looked at Sandy. Why? You want to eat it too? Then I'll discuss it with Gu Mengmeng. She's so close to you. She'll definitely be willing to share it with you. Sandy shook her head. She forced a smile. I won't snatch Gu Mengmeng's things. Colin did not say a word. He wanted to leave. But when he saw that Sandy was still tugging on the corner of his dress, he asked, Then do you have anything else? Sandy bit her lower lip and said, I fought with Nina again today. Colin chuckled and said, I've heard about this. I feel that Gu Mengmeng is still right. You have to bring out Gu Mengmeng's strength and send Nina flying with a slap. Let's see if she still dares to make a fuss next time. That's why Gu Mengmeng is the first beauty of the tribe. She has a beautiful heart too. It's really nice no matter how I look at her. Sandy slowly loosened his grip and nodded with a smile. Yes, you're right. I'm fine now. Hurry and bring Gu Mengmeng to find that mud ball. She seems to like it very much. Who knows, if she's happy, you can stay in Elvis's cave this winter. Hearing this, Colin's heart, which had finally calmed down, started beating again. He patted Sandy's shoulder and said with a silly smile, What are you talking about? I don't dare to think like that. Sandy looked at his shoulder, which had turned red from the patting, and laughed bitterly in his heart. He sighed and said, Look at you, you can't even see your eyes from smiling. You still don't dare to think about it? You must be thinking so much that you're going crazy, right? Hurry and chase after her. If you don't, Gu Mengmeng will be far away. Hearing Sandy's words, Gu Mengmeng then realized that Elvis had already brought Gu Mengmeng far away. She smacked her head and said, Aya, I won't say any more. I'm going to lead the way for Gu Mengmeng. Looking at Colin, who was running away in a hurry, Sandy's originally smiling lips slowly pursed into a straight line. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. She placed her chubby little hand on her left chest and murmured to Colin's back view, I won't snatch Gu Mengmeng's things. I won't snatch Gu Mengmeng's things. Aside from the topic, sigh, Colin is such a blockhead. Sometimes, I really feel that he deserves to be single. She thought of a story. A girl asked a guy to watch a movie, then reminded him, remember to bring your identification card. Then, the guy used 2 hours to tell the girl not to check her identification card when watching a movie. Chapter 192. When Gu Mengmeng followed Colin to the sweet potato field, she felt that her life was too blissful. Staple food, this was the damn staple food. She shook Elvis's arm in agitation and pointed at the sweet potato field, unable to say a word. Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head lovingly, then turned back slightly and gave a signal. The group of males behind him all stepped forward and started plucking the sweet potatoes. Why a group? Everyone heard Sandy and Colin's conversation. Who wouldn't want to seize this opportunity to perform well? If they could really gain Gu Mengmeng's favor before winter, that would be the pinnacle of their lives. Even if they could not, it would be glorious to be able to serve the first beauty of the tribe. For the entire afternoon, Gu Mengmeng was in charge of sitting in Elvis's arms and smiling foolishly, then watching everyone transport the sweet potatoes that were as tall as a hill back to Saint Nazaire. Under Gu Mengmeng's insistence, the sweet potato leaves were also brought back. When they returned to Saint Nazaire, Oakley and Bode had already returned and were distributing the honey they had gathered into bowls and basins in Gu Mengmeng's house. Sandy was following behind Bode with her eyes full of hearts, stealing a mouthful of the honey that Bode secretly gave her from time to time. Gu Mengmeng happily went forward to greet them, then took out a clean sweet potato for Sandy. Sandy took over the sweet potato and took a bite without saying anything, then exclaimed in surprise, so sweet. Gu Mengmeng pointed behind her with her thumb, then turned her body sideways and Sandy saw the sweet potatoes that were as tall as a hill. She hugged Gu Mengmeng happily and jumped high on the spot. Gu Mengmeng said, I definitely can't finish all these by myself. you and Maya should also bring some back to store during winter. I will share the rest with the males in the tribe." The males in the tribe were all stunned. Since ancient times, only males would find food for females. There had never been a male who ate the food brought back by a female. Even though none of these things were plucked by Gu Mengmeng herself, they still belonged to Gu Mengmeng. Sandy was also unhappy. She dug her lips and said, "We already don't eat the prey brought back by the males this winter, can't we just split it among the three of us?" Gu Mengmeng found it funny and asked, "So much? It's at least 1,000 pounds, can you finish it?" Sandy looked at the sweet potatoes and thought back to the crispy taste just now. She swallowed her saliva and nodded. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and laughed helplessly. "You little glutton, aren't you afraid your heart will burn from eating sweet potatoes the whole winter? Don't you want to eat the fish and meat we've preserved?" Looking at the water shuttles and various kinds of meat hanging on the tree, Sandy blinked her eyes and rubbed her stomach. "Then I can give them a little, but only a little." Gu Mengmeng smiled. "All right, I'll give them a little." Maya walked to Gu Mengmeng and asked timidly, "Gu Mengmeng, I don't want the sweet potato, can you give me some of that leaf?" Gu Mengmeng turned around and looked at the sweet potato leaves Maya was pointing at, asking, "You like to eat this?" Maya nodded, her eyes full of desire. Gu Mengmeng agreed readily, "Sure, there's a lot of this, I'll keep some to make soup, you and Sandy can share the rest." Sandy immediately opened her mouth and said, "I don't want the leaves, I'll give you all my leaves in exchange for the sweet potatoes, alright?" Maya nodded, and just like that, the two of them happily came to an agreement. Aside from the topic, I suddenly thought of a song that suited Sandy very well. So hungry, I'm really so hungry. Chapter 193. For the next few days, Gu Mengmeng was exceptionally busy. The males plucked the potatoes from the potato field in batches and hunted a lot of prey on their way back. Because in the past, everyone would observe the hiding place of their prey and wait until winter when there was no more food to hunt. This would ensure that the food would not rot. But in the past, they had to pay a huge price. It was considered good if one of them could return out of 3. But this year, with Gu Mengmeng's storage method, not only did everyone not need to take risks during winter, they could also hunt during the season when the prey was the fattest. Be it the quality or quantity of the stored food, there was an obvious increase. Meanwhile, another group of people, led by Bode, started to fish in the stream in large batches and dried them in the sun according to Gu Mengmeng's method. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner until one day, an uninvited guest came to the tribe. Leah, who had not appeared for a long time, once again came to the border of Elvis's territory. He used his unique fox howl to call Elvis out from his territory. Elvis was surprised to see Lee's haggard face. He frowned and said, "Your body won't be able to take it if you keep digging ginger day and night." Leah waved his hands and took out a small basket from his waist. That was the basket that Gu Mengmeng used to feed rabbits for a few days. That rabbit did not survive in the end, so Leah kept the basket to prevent Gu Mengmeng from feeling sad when she thought about it. Now, it came in handy. He used the basket to fill the basket with ginger and passed it to Elvis. He sighed and said, "I have to do something for her so that I can catch my breath. Or else." Leah lowered his head and stared at his chest, not finishing his sentence. With a deep sigh, Leah shook his head and continued, "I came here today because I have something else to tell you." Elvis and Leah had been through life and death situations for many years. Just by looking at his expression, Elvis knew that what Leah wanted to say was very serious. So Elvis handed the ginger to a male at the side and followed Leah out of his territory to Lee's home. To a certain extent, the witch doctor's territory was even more inviolable than the leader's territory. This was because apart from treating the wounded, this was also the place where the witch doctor and the leader discussed important matters. When the two of them released their powerful auras at the same time, this place became an absolute vacuum. Anyone who approached without permission could be killed without asking for a reason. This was the divine authority that the previous messenger of the beast deity had bestowed upon the witch doctor. Leah leaned against the tree and closed his eyes. He was the first to release his own suppressive force. Elvis was stunned for a moment before following closely behind. After confirming that there was no one else other than them in Li's territory, Leah then slowly opened his mouth and said, "The fact that Meng Meng is the messenger of the beast deity can no longer be hidden." Elvis's expression froze as he asked, "What do you mean?" Leah used his chin to point at the moon-white little fox lying at the entrance of his cave and said, "Sauter's messenger fox. Its appearance means that Sauter's messenger is on the way to Saint Nazir and will arrive in a few days. He is telling us to prepare in advance to receive the messenger." Elvis frowned and said with a serious expression, "Sauter, is the tribe where the previous messenger of the beast deity descended?" Aside from the topic, Gu Meng Meng, where did you go to fool around just now? Elvis, Gu Meng Meng, I'm asking you, who were you with just now? Elvis, with Leah. Gu Meng Meng cupped her heart with one hand and pointed at Elvis with the other, trembling. Fooling around with Leah? I knew it. I knew there was something going on between the two of you. You really got together. How could you do this to me? How could you do this? Elvis, Xiao Meng, listen to my explanation. Gu Meng Meng, I don't want to listen, I don't want to listen, I don't want to listen. You didn't even reserve a VIP seat for such an exciting live broadcast. I'm so disappointed in you. Elvis's face darkened. Gu Meng Meng held on to Elvis's shoulders and said, I won't pursue the details. I just want to ask you one thing, between you and Leah, who is on the offensive and who is on the defensive? Chapter 194. Leah nodded as a reply. They would not send messengers to Saint Nazir for no reason, and the only thing worth plotting in Saint Nazir is. Leah did not finish his sentence and just looked at Elvis quietly. Elvis remained silent for a moment before saying, Xiao Meng has never left the tribe before. How did they know of her identity? Leah smiled faintly. The calm expression on his face was because he had long expected this day to come. No tribe had the ability to hide the existence of the messenger of the beast deity forever. It was only a matter of time before they were exposed. However, when this day arrived, his heart was not as calm as he had expected. Even though he had already predicted countless times how to deal with such a situation before Gu Meng Meng came, but now, he no longer wanted a 90% chance of success, but a 100% chance of failure. Leah did not answer Elvis's question, only revealing a smile of mutual understanding. His slender and bony hand tapped his arm lightly, raising his head to look at the sky and squinting his eyes, causing his originally faint smile to become even more subtle, almost indiscernible. Winter is about to arrive. Do you think this messenger would be so unlucky to meet with the first snowfall on his way back and forth? The corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly, revealing an evil and bloodthirsty smile. His blue eyes shone with a cold light as he said, the winter that belongs to him should arrive before he steps into Saint Nazir. No. Leah stopped Elvis and took a deep breath before continuing, let him enter the tribe and let him see Gu Meng Meng. Elvis frowned. He did not question Leah directly, but was obviously waiting for his explanation. Leah was not affected by Elvis's emotions and continued, Gu Meng Meng brought fire and food to Saint Nazir. Many people in the tribe have already vaguely guessed her identity. If we continue to hide it for a long time, we will inevitably lose the trust of the people, and it will seem like you, the tribe leader, and me, the witch doctor, do not trust the tribe members. So, we need someone with credibility to help us reveal Gu Meng Meng's identity. This messenger is the most suitable. Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed. He could not help but admit that Li's words were right. In order to delay the exposure of Gu Meng Meng's identity to the greatest extent, they did not tell anyone in the tribe that Gu Meng Meng was the messenger of the beast deity. But now, far away in Sauter, the messengers of the beast deity tribe, no, it should be said that the people from the former messengers of the beast deity tribe already knew about it. That meant that someone in the tribe had guessed Gu Meng Meng's identity and leaked it out. Since someone already knew about it, there was no point in continuing to hide it. They might as well publicize Gu Meng Meng's identity within Saint Nazir. This way, the people in the tribe would protect Gu Meng Meng to a higher level, from protecting a precious female to protecting the new messenger of the beast deity. Those were two completely different concepts. But in that case, Gu Meng Meng's leisurely days would come to an end. The turmoil and fights in the beast world could almost be foreseen. Putting Gu Meng Meng in the eye of the storm was not something he wished to see, but she was the messenger of the beast deity. Feeling helpless, Elvis nodded his head solemnly and said, I'll leave this matter to you. I'll go back and accompany Xiao Meng first. Li's expression was still indifferent as he nodded his head slightly. Until Elvis's back completely disappeared from his sight, Leah then transformed into his half-orc form. He sat cross-legged and hugged his furry big tail in his arms, stroking it from time to time. He looked at his empty arms with empty eyes, imagining that petite person smiling sweetly and saying, "Daddy Leah, you're so good-looking. Meng Meng, I miss you so much." Even though he knew that she could not hear him, he still expressed his longing to the air. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling HKL on QQ for reminding me. The potato problem was indeed a bug. The potatoes dug out when the potatoes were blooming could not be eaten, so the situation in the novel could not be applied in reality. Let's just treat it as the laws of nature and the beast world being different from the present world. Don't use what you read in the novel to apply it in reality. Chapter 195. In a tribe, the chief had the highest authority, because no one could beat him. Witch doctors represented divine authority that could not be blasphemed. Sometimes, they could even override the authority of the chief. But there was one situation that even the tribe leader and witch doctor could not do anything about, and that was when the females of the tribe came together. What they wanted to do. Basically, even if the beast deity himself appeared, he would not be able to do anything about it. And now, Saint Nazir was in such a situation. Out of the 4 females, 3 of them were happily shuttling back and forth in the tribe that was filled with salted meat, potatoes, and sweet potatoes every day. From time to time, they would say, "Wow, you've salted so much meat. I won't go hungry this winter," and "Oh my God, you arranged the potatoes and sweet potatoes so neatly. Can you teach my partner?" Praise like that. This simply caused the adrenaline of the males in Saint Nazir to soar to an unprecedented high. Everyone put in more effort in hunting to preserve and dig more potatoes and sweet potatoes. And what caused everything to reach a boiling point was that before winter, the foodie Sandy had taken in a new partner, a hyena named Bailey. In the beast world where handsome men were everywhere, Bailey's looks could only be considered average and his body was not as strong as Barit or Collins. And the reason why Sandy could take a liking to him was because of his sensitive sense of smell that he was the male who discovered the most new potato fields. In other words, he used a large potato field as a dowry to marry into Sandy's family. In this way, Sandy had 7 companions. On the day of mating, Gu Meng Meng made a huge pot of precious animal farm stew. As the meat was all processed into pieces, Gu Meng Meng did not know whether he had put in a lion or a tiger other than potatoes in the pot. Anyway, when a pot of steaming hot and fragrant farmhouse stew was delivered to the entrance of Sandy's cave, Sandy was smiling so widely that his eyes couldn't be seen. It was rare that he was not in a hurry to eat. He held Gu Meng Meng's hand and asked her to sing "Dowry" again. Gu Meng Meng thought that although it was Sandy's 7th mating, it was still a joyous occasion. There was nothing like a wedding here. As a friend, it was not a big deal for her to sing a song for him. Hence, she cleared her throat and sang Gua Jing's Dowry from start to finish. After singing, she thought that it was time to send the bride and groom off to the bridal chamber, but who knew that Sandy would look up at Bailey and ask, "Did you remember what Gu Meng Meng sang just now?" Gu Meng Meng, thank you. If you had not discovered that Sandy loves to eat potatoes, would not have the fortune to mate with her. You are Sandy's good friend and my benefactor. I will be grateful to you for my entire life. I will never dare to complain that you are noisy and will never dare to be jealous of you. Don't worry. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head hurriedly and bowed 90 degrees to Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng, thank you. Gu Meng Meng burst into laughter. Why did she feel as if she was Sandy's first partner and this new little fellow was worshipping her? However, this feeling was not bad. Hence, Gu Meng Meng shook her wrists and did a warm-up action that she always did before hitting Nina. Suppressing her smile, she said in a slightly threatening tone, "I can ignore if you complain that I am noisy or are jealous of me. But if you dare to let my Sandy suffer even the slightest grievance, my fists are not to be trifled with." Bailey tilted his head and stared at Gu Meng Meng's weak fists. He blinked his eyes and did not know what to say. Gu Mengmeng felt that she was being looked down upon. Hence, she narrowed her eyes and sneered, "I will use my fists to instruct Elvis to beat you up so badly." Bailey looked up and saw that Elvis was already standing behind Gu Mengmeng. He was emitting a domineering aura and staring at him coldly. Goosebumps rose from the bottom of her feet. She did not dare to doubt him anymore and nodded her head in agreement. Aside from the topic, "Thank you, Xian baby, for tipping me on QQ reading. I just realized that you have already tipped me to become an apprentice. Congratulations on leveling up. You already have 1,000 fan points and are the second highest among all the fans." Chapter 196. Sandy's mating made the blood of the males in St. Nazaire boil. Gu Mengmeng felt a sense of achievement when she saw everyone's enthusiasm. If there were fewer deaths this winter because of her, or even less deaths, then she had not transmigrated for nothing. More or less, she had made some contributions to the beast world, right? The weather was getting colder. Other than noon, when the sun was at its highest, Gu Mengmeng could not leave her room. Luckily, Elvis was a tycoon. He knew that Gu Mengmeng's eyes could not see anything in the dark, so he took out 17 to 18 luminous pearls from the depths of the cave and embedded them on the wall. A luminous pearl's light was actually very dim, but when there were a lot of them, it exuded a hazy sense of beauty. Sometimes, when Gu Mengmeng opened her eyes, she would feel as if she was in outer space and the stars were just within her reach, accompanying her. That feeling was very dreamy and unreal, especially when Elvis was in the hazy night light. His devilish aura was magnified by the dim light and his resolute side under the sunlight was hidden in the darkness. At that moment, he looked a little like a vampire from Western mythology. His long hair draped over his shoulders like black smoke and his bare chest exuded a strong sense of temptation. Even after looking at him for almost a month, Gu Mengmeng still could not help blushing and her heart palpitating. As the two of them spent more time alone in the cave, Gu Mengmeng's immunity towards Elvis showed a negative trend. This made her feel very uneasy. She had just broken up with Leah for less than a month and she felt that it was an insult to her feelings for Leah to have a new lover so soon. After all, he was her first love. And just when Gu Mengmeng was in a dilemma, the person who should have come finally came. That afternoon, a fox's howl attracted Elvis's attention. His expression was a little complicated and when he looked at Gu Mengmeng, his brows were tightly knitted into a dead knot. Gu Mengmeng easily sensed Elvis's abnormality and asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Elvis pursed his lips and answered, "The messenger from the previous messenger tribe is here, we have to go and welcome him." Gu Mengmeng had heard a lot about the messenger of the beast deity from Sandy. She was very interested in the man who was almost deified, even though many of his tricks were fake in the eyes of modern people. But he had successfully fooled everyone in the beast world. This was something that Gu Mengmeng admired. Once she heard that the messengers from the messenger's tribe had arrived, Gu Mengmeng's eyes lit up. She jumped into Elvis's arms and wrapped her arms around his neck. "I heard from Sandy that the messenger's tribe is very arrogant. They always look down on people with their noses up high. They actually came to our place today. It's so rare. Bring me to have a look." Elvis's brows never relaxed, because he knew what it meant to take that step out of this cave. Looking at Gu Mengmeng in his arms, he suddenly felt how good it would be if she was not the messenger of the beast deity. That way, she could live a simple life under his protection and not have to bear so many disputes and troubles. Unfortunately, there were no ifs. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng's waist and kissed her forehead. Then, he chose a thick bear skin and wrapped Gu Mengmeng up tightly. Before they left, he realized that her little feet were still exposed outside, so he placed her feet into his beast skin dress and used his stomach to warm her up. Everything was ready. Elvis took a deep breath and carried the excited Gu Mengmeng. Facing the glaring sunlight outside the cave, he walked out. Aside from the topic, "Thank you to the QQ reading baby, can you gift me scissors when my hair reaches my waist, for the 399 reading points? Thank you for your support during the recommendation period." Susu will work harder at this point. The contents of the first chapter, Transmigration to the Beast World, was published. The next chapter started and the contents of the second chapter started. Gu Mengmeng would not stay in a state where she did not understand the rules. From the next chapter, Gu Mengmeng's golden finger would slowly open up. Chapter 197. The center of Saint Nazir, the place where Gu Mengmeng held her coming-of-age ceremony. The blood-soaked redwood tower had been removed. Now, there were many animal furs neatly arranged. They were all tanned and arranged according to the type and pattern of the furs. They were divided into 3 grades, good, medium, and poor. On one pile of furs, a person sat. He had one foot on the edge of the furs while the other was hanging down casually. Against the light, Gu Mengmeng could not see that person's face clearly. She just felt that this arrogant sitting posture was very annoying. Damn it, those furs were to be distributed to the tribesmen to keep them warm during the winter. Hey! Gu Mengmeng pointed at the male sitting high above and shouted, "Didn't your mother teach you to be polite when visiting someone else's house? Don't touch other people's things?" As if he had never been treated like this before, that person was stunned for a moment. Gu Mengmeng could clearly see him turning his head, then his body obviously moved. And then, Gu Mengmeng did not have the time to see anything else. She only felt Elvis's muscles tensing up while hugging her. He quickly took a step back and the beast's skin that was wrapped around her was flipped by an external force. It broke into pieces and scattered all over the place. Gu Mengmeng had no doubt that if Elvis had dodged a little slower, the beast's skin would not be the only thing that broke into pieces. Gu Mengmeng's anger flared up immediately. She pointed at that person's nose and scolded, "Are you a freaking rabies patient or did you just run out from Qingshan Mental Hospital?" At the same time, Gu Mengmeng was surrounded by over 20 males from Saint Nazir. They were all prepared to attack, glaring at that person like a tiger watching its prey while blocking Elvis and Gu Mengmeng behind them. Attacking a female from a tribe, no matter what your status was equivalent to declaring war on the tribe. This was the rule of the beast world. You are Gu Mengmeng. That person did not care about the males blocking in front of him at all. But when he saw Gu Mengmeng's face, his eyes suddenly lit up. His gaze was naked and obvious as he sized her up with obvious greed. Gu Mengmeng sneered, "Is this a situation where you can ask questions? Are you a little confused about the situation?" The man coldly glanced at the males in front of him and snorted. "That's right, I should at least clean up the trash here and create a comfortable environment for the beautiful females to talk in." As he spoke, he gently licked the back of his hand, and his fingernails grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. His movements were like a cat's, but more bewitching. Gu Mengmeng felt that this action was extremely familiar, but she could not recall where she had seen it before. In the blink of an eye, screams rang out. The males in front of Elvis and Gu Mengmeng rolled on the ground at an unbelievable speed. Every single one of them had wounds of varying degrees. It was not fatal, but it made it difficult for them to stand up again. Moreover, each of them had an obvious wound on their arteries. It was obvious that they were going to bleed to death. Gu Mengmeng frowned. Was this person a freaking psychopathic killer? Damn you! Gu Mengmeng scolded and rolled up her sleeves, ready to charge forward. Elvis hugged her tightly and tilted her chin with one hand, turning her angry little face towards him. Then, he looked into her eyes and said, "Tell me, do you want him to be crippled or dead?" Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling, Mao 061028, from Shaoxiang Academy for voting for this article. And thank you to the little darling, Yi Wuyo, from QQ Book City for tipping 399 reading points. Chapter 198. Gu Mengmeng rolled up half of her sleeves and pointed at the man who was smiling in a weird manner. Beat him to death. All right. Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng down and kissed her forehead lightly. The moment he turned around, his murderous aura was released and he walked towards the messenger from the tribe of the messengers of the beast deity step by step. Gu Mengmeng did not stay idle either. She casually picked up a piece of beast skin and ran to the nearest injured person. She asked him to use his sharp claws to help her tear the beast skin into strips. Then, she tied the wound tightly from the side closest to the heart to stop the bleeding in an emergency. Gu Mengmeng could not even call out the name of this casualty who was lying on the ground, but she remembered his face. During this period of time when they were digging potatoes, sweet potatoes, and bacon, they always had some pleasant moments together. Gu Meng Meng. I'm sorry, I'm too weak. Blood gushed out from his wound, but that male lowered his head as if he could not feel the pain. He did not dare to look at Gu Meng Meng's eyes, as if he was ashamed and annoyed at the same time, as if he had done something unforgivable. Gu Meng Meng still could not agree with the unspoken rule of being weak is wrong, death is what you deserve, in the beast world. She slapped his shoulder hard and said, "Don't let your imagination run wild, you're very brave. You clearly knew you couldn't beat him, but didn't you still stand in front of me? You're the brave warrior of Saint Nazir, I'm proud of you. Heal your wounds first, it's not too late to seek revenge on him after you've raised your abilities." Yeah. The male nodded his head resolutely and did not say any more self-deprecating words. Gu Meng Meng was just about to handle the second casualty when her hands felt lighter. "Leave it to me." Leah took over the beast's skin from Gu Meng Meng's hands. His actions were as smooth as flowing water without any hesitation. Gu Meng Meng sighed. No matter what kind of grudge she had with Leah, she had to put it aside in front of the enemy. Nothing was more important than saving the lives of her tribesmen. Not having to worry about the injured anymore, Gu Meng Meng then turned her attention back to Elvis and that messenger. Both of them seemed to be on par with each other and were in a stalemate. Gu Meng Meng observed carefully for a long time and came to the conclusion that Elvis was a practical fighter. His attacks were all accumulated from actual battles and every move was very solid. As long as he managed to land a hit, that messenger would probably not be able to get up. On the other hand, the messenger's movements were light and agile. She was able to avoid Elvis's attacks every single time and counterattack with each move. Moreover, his moves were very sinister. They were all moves that targeted the opponent's vitals. He did not need to use too much strength, but he could still achieve the effect of subduing the opponent in one move. It was a light fighting style. If this went on, Elvis would obviously be at a disadvantage. Gu Meng Meng frowned and suddenly recalled what Oakley said to her that night. Fire, the previous messenger of the beast deity, used fire to create a ridiculous faith, and then indirectly ruled this world. As a result, no one dared to offend Sauter, the tribe of the messenger of the beast deity, for thousands of years. What a pity, it was said that no one in this tribe knew how to light a fire. But, anyone in Saint Nazir could light a fire. Gu Meng Meng curled the corner of her lips and smiled evilly. She shot a look at the wounded man lying beside her and said, "Big brother, lend me a fire." Aside from the topic. Chapter 199. When Gu Meng Meng approached Elvis and the messenger, who were fighting step by step with the torch in her hand, the messenger was stunned. It was as if he did not dare to believe his own eyes and could only stare at Gu Meng Meng's little face that was illuminated red by the fire. Her smile was so sly and quick-witted that he did not need any other evidence. At that moment, he had already deeply believed that this breathtakingly beautiful female was the new messenger of the beast deity. He was in a daze and Elvis would not be courteous to him. He punched his chin and a tooth flew out of his mouth along with blood. The messenger fell backwards and a black whirlpool appeared in front of him. But even so, he continued to stare at Gu Meng Meng's direction with an indescribable expression. It was just a little wretched and ferocious. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis's arm and said, "Thank you for your hard work, tribe leader. Leave the rest to me." Elvis looked at the messenger, who could not get up from the ground, and did not say a word. He just quietly took half a step back and maintained a distance where he could snap his neck before Gu Meng Meng was hurt if that fellow made any sudden movements. He let Gu Meng Meng vent her anger on him. "Great messenger." Gu Meng Meng squatted beside the messenger and sneered at his mouth that was still dripping blood. She squinted her eyes and sneered, "By right, you have come from afar and we should be welcoming you with great hospitality. But you are really too rude, it makes me feel really uncomfortable." Gu Meng Meng did not give the messenger a chance to speak at all. She twirled her slender fingers in the flame a few times and saw the shocked expression on the messenger's face from the corner of her eyes. She thought to herself in disdain, "You ignorant country bumpkin, I learned these two tricks from a magician when I was doing a part-time job at the amusement park." It might not even work on little kids at my place, but in front of you, it's considered amazing, right? Seeing that the messenger's eyes were almost popping out, Gu Mengmeng snorted in disdain and continued, there are a few debts that we have to settle properly. Gu Mengmeng casually held onto the beast skin that she was originally draped over her body and that was now torn into rags. She said, this beast skin was personally sewn by my mother when I was born. Aya, you broke it just like that. Tell me, how are you going to compensate me? That messenger shuddered at Gu Mengmeng's words. No matter how cunning he was still limited by his knowledge and did not know what faking an accident was. Gu Mengmeng usually did not bother to do such things, but she was really too angry today. Was there a need to follow the rules of the pugilistic world when dealing with such a lunatic? I'm sorry, Gu Mengmeng has always been someone who will return 10 times the kindness you have shown me. But if you dare to bully me, then I'll pay you back 100-fold and demand 10,000 years of interest. I will hunt 10 to return to you. The messenger's mouth was full of blood and he could not even speak clearly. When he opened his mouth, blood splattered onto Gu Mengmeng's face. Gu Mengmeng frowned in disgust. This is a gift from the beast deity. How are you going to hunt 10 of them and return them to me? Didn't your mother give it to you? The messenger's tongue went numb and his brain was still buzzing. It was not that he was smart, but Gu Mengmeng's words had too many loopholes. However, Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. She moved her mouth close to the messenger's ear as if she was whispering to him. She did not lower her volume and said word by word, you didn't hear me clearly, did you? What I said was that this was personally sewn by my mother, and the person who gave me this beast skin is the beast deity. Aside from the topic, thank you, Meng Baby and Qingwan, for your tips. Both of you wanted to bribe me, yeah, I'll accept the bribe. I will carefully consider both of your requests. Also, let's do an advertisement. Our QQ group number is 4927792773. Sometimes, not only will your messages be deleted, my messages will also be deleted. I replied to a few of my baby's messages in the book city, but they all disappeared when I refreshed the page. I'm in despair too. Well, everyone can join this group. Every day, I will try my best to spend some time chatting with everyone in the group. Occasionally, I will send red packets or something. Chapter 200. The messenger's face turned pale, not knowing if it was because of Elvis's beating or Gu Mengmeng's shock. He looked at Gu Mengmeng while trembling and asked, the beast deity, why did he give you the beast skin? Gu Mengmeng suddenly covered her mouth and laughed. She looked at the messenger with a "you idiot" look and shook her head. She used her finger to draw circles in front of the messenger and said, of course it's because the beast deity is my father. The messenger's eyes widened even further in what Gu Mengmeng thought was his limit, causing his originally ferocious expression to look extremely comical, similar to some emoticons. The messenger swallowed his saliva and asked carefully, isn't your daddy? His gaze turned towards Leah, who was not far away, and he did not finish his sentence. Gu Mengmeng's face darkened and she sneered in her heart. This messenger whom she had never seen before knew her name the moment he came up and now even knew that she called Leah daddy. Even a fool would not believe that there was no traitor. Gu Mengmeng composed herself and did not give the messenger too much time to figure out her thoughts. She just asked sarcastically, why? Does your mother only have one partner? That messenger's face suddenly turned from white to green. He really could not imagine what kind of female could make the beast deity willingly become one of her many beast husbands. He suddenly realized that the background of this little female in front of him could be unfathomable. The strongest person in her family was actually not the beast deity. Who was her mother? What kind of background did she have? All the questions exploded in his mind. He struggled to move and Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng up the moment his fingers moved. He took a step back and got into a position where he could attack or retreat at will. However, the messenger did not stand up. He just flipped his body and knelt down, giving Gu Mengmeng a salute that was similar to the Tibetan pilgrimage. He endured the intense pain in his body and said in a stuttering manner, Gu Mengmeng, Gu Mengmeng. Dumbo represents solder to welcome the messenger of the beast deity back to the tribe. Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, wasn't this fellow too easy to fool? Did he really believe that the beast deity was her father? She thought to herself, idiot. However, his expression was cold as he said, don't change the subject. You broke something that the beast deity gave me. How are you going to settle this? Dumbo's body was obviously trembling, and he didn't dare to raise his head. Maintaining his prostrate posture, he said, it's all up to the great emissary's decision. Whatever you say, it's up to you. Only then did Gu Mengmeng smile. Her smile was as radiant as the morning sun, so dazzling that one could not open their eyes. She seemed to be in a good mood as she patted Elvis, signaling him to put her down. Elvis saw that Dumbo would not be able to cause any trouble, but he still maintained his vigilance, maintaining an arm's length distance away from Gu Mengmeng to protect her. Gu Mengmeng was obviously more open-minded. She took 2 steps forward and rubbed the back of Dumbo's head with a, "You're really understanding" expression. She said, I'm not an unreasonable person. You probably don't have the ability to ask the beast deity for another piece of the same thing. How about you peel off your skin and give it to me as compensation? Dumbo's body stiffened and then trembled even more violently. There was a smell of urine, and then liquid flowed out from under him. Did he pee from fear? The people from the tribe of the messenger of the beast deity were just like this. How could they run amok in the beast world for thousands of years with such conduct? Gu Mengmeng sneered, then continued, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. The witch doctor in our tribe is very skillful. Peeling off your skin is a piece of cake for him. I guarantee that he can peel off a whole piece of skin. Moreover, his hands are fast, so you won't be in pain for long. Oh, right, his medical skills are especially good. I guarantee that after you peel off your skin, you will not die. Aside from the topic, my babies, today is the last day of the recommendation period. Whether there will be a next recommendation depends on my babies. Vote, reward, leave a message, don't stop. Chapter 201. When Gu Mengmeng said the last 3 words one by one slowly, Dumbo's fear reached its peak. He would not die even after being skinned. Was there anything worse than this? Dumbo had already started to feel pain all over his body. Thinking of his bloody appearance, he could not control his trembling. Only now did he start to regret his arrogance. He should not have attacked Gu Mengmeng immediately. He only wanted to confirm the extent of Saint Nazir's protection of Gu Mengmeng. If she could be easily killed by him, it would prove that this person was just one of the countless females that had impersonated him over the years. And when he saw Gu Mengmeng's face, he was already half sure that Gu Mengmeng was the messenger of the beast deity. Although he had not seen the previous messenger of the beast deity with his own eyes, it was rumored that she had an unforgettable beauty that no other females in the beast world could compare to. So the first creed for the messengers who were sent out to search for the new messenger of the beast deity was their own eyes. Even though none of them had seen the messenger of the beast deity before, the legends in their tribe told them that as long as they saw her, they would be able to recognize her at first glance. The facts proved that their ancestors were right. And when he saw Gu Mengmeng holding a torch and even playing with the flames in her palms, he was already 100% convinced. It could not be wrong, or else why would the flame demon brought by the previous messenger of the beast deity be so docile in her hands? And it was precisely because of this that he firmly believed in Gu Mengmeng's theory of, the beast deity is my dad. After all, according to the records and legends in his tribe, the flame demon had always been violent and even the previous messenger of the beast deity could not control it completely. But Gu Mengmeng could use it freely, as if she was playing with her own pet. If the flame demon was anyone's pet, the beast deity was definitely the best choice. So it was logical that Gu Mengmeng was the daughter of the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng did not know that Dumbo's trouble had already reached the horizon. She only saw him suddenly straighten his upper body and look at Leah, who was walking towards them after treating his wounds, with a complicated and fearful gaze. His gaze was filled with fear and admiration, not like he was looking at an executioner who was about to skin him, but more like F*******. Gu Mengmeng instantly understood Dumbo's thoughts. He King thought that Leah was the same as the beast deity, the partner of his mother beast. Damn it, what a cheap mouth. Why didn't she think before she blurted out something stupid like, your mother only has one partner? How was he going to wrap things up now? Did he really find himself another stepfather? But the problem was that she didn't even know who her mother was. Gu Mengmeng shuddered and kept a respectful distance from this kind of melodramatic imagination. She shook her head and could no longer follow Dumbo's rhythm. She forcefully changed the rhythm and said angrily, "Hey. Didn't I tell you not to change the subject? I'll be frank with you. Are you going to pay for this skin or not?" Dumbo shifted with his knees and turned towards Leah. He kowtowed and said, "Your Ninth Highness, please save Dumbo." Dumbo didn't mean to offend the mighty messenger. "Please help me plead for leniency with the mighty messenger." Gu Mengmeng frowned and looked at Leah following Dumbo's kneeling position. She repeated in her heart, "Ninth Highness?" Chapter 202. Gu Mengmeng was obviously spouting nonsense about Leah being able to skin someone and not die after that. Even though Leah was also pondering, where exactly should he start to ensure that Damagwa would not die after the entire skin was peeled off? But real knowledge comes from practice. How would he know if he did not try? Hence, Leah continued to approach Damagwa at a slow speed. He watched as the mighty messenger became incontinent in the blink of an eye, looking like a useless person who could not live on his own. Gu Mengmeng frowned in disgust and turned her face to the side. Ninth Highness, you can't do this to me. After all, we are from the same tribe, we can't kill each other. You can plead with the great emissary. You are her elder, she will definitely listen to you. Ninth Highness, I beg you, Ninth Highness, please save me. Elder? Leah clenched his teeth, his squinted eyes filled with a strong murderous aura. His Gu Mengmeng called him Daddy Leah, which was a nickname between lovers. This idiot actually said that he was her elder? Ninth Highness, I know you were wronged in the past, but didn't you lead a good life after leaving Sauter? You even joined the family of the beast deity. What kind of fate is that? Just let go of the past, Before Damagwa could finish his words, his neck was already gripped by Lee's sharp claws and he could not say another word. Leah half-dragged Damagwa's body and scrutinized his neck carefully, as if he was considering which point to start from, so that the skin he peeled off would be more complete. Damagwa grabbed onto Lee's wrist with both hands, wanting to break free but unable to do so. He could only whisper, Ninth Highness, Ninth. Shuv. Leah placed his index finger on his lips and gestured for him to keep quiet. He smiled calmly and said, Wasn't your Ninth Highness chased out of the tribe long ago? I remember, it seems like, if we meet again, everyone in Sauter can be killed. Lee's smile deepened. He paused for a while and looked at Damagwa with an extremely seductive expression, as if he had shed his immortal aura and fallen into the abyss of demons. He said, The person who wanted to kill me back then, is now kneeling before me, worshipping me and begging me? Aren't you afraid of becoming a sinner of Sauter and becoming the next target to be banished? Leah gradually tightened his grip, allowing Dumbo to fully experience the feeling of suffocation. Looking at his protruding eyes that were filled with blood vessels, there was no trace of pity in his heart, not even hatred. He thought that he would be filled with hatred. He thought that when he saw the people from Sauter again, he would use the cruelest methods to tear them apart. But now, the only thought in his mind was actually how to peel off this piece of skin without letting Dumbo die. Gu Mengmeng was quite ruthless when she was scaring people. If she really had to resort to violence, it was not impossible for her to accidentally kill Damagwa. But this method of skinning him alive, to be honest, she was just saying it to scare people. If she really carried it out, she might not even have the guts to see it herself. Besides, she did not want Leia's hands to be stained with blood. There was no reason why, she just did not want to. Leah, let go of him first. Gu Mengmeng finally spoke before Damagwa breathed his last. Leah released his grip and threw Damagwa to one side. Then, he quietly returned to stand behind Gu Mengmeng, half a step away from Elvis. This was the order of status in the family and could not be crossed. Gu Mengmeng did not turn back. She just looked at the collapsed Damagwa in disdain and said in disgust, Your whole body is covered in *T and urine. TSK TSK TSK, it's too disgusting. Even if you peel off your skin and give it to me, I wouldn't dare to use it. Aside from the topic, Lee's identity was still a mystery. What exactly did he experience in Sauder? Why did he become a witch doctor in Saint Nazaire? And why did he sacrifice his entire life's happiness and use himself as a wager to keep the messenger of the beast deity in Saint Nazaire? Why was such an ambitious and capable male willing to be below Elvis? Even though he loved Gu Mengmeng so much, he did not fight with Elvis for the title of the first partner, and even did something like pretending to mate with Nina. Chapter 203. Only God knew that such a sentence of blatant disdain sounded like a heavenly melody to Dumbo. He used his trembling body to wipe the tears of joy from his face. While he was deeply grateful, he talked about the disgusting things he had done in the past. He said whatever was dirty or smelly, as if he was extremely afraid that Gu Mengmeng did not dislike him enough and would regret it later, asking Leah to skin him alive. Gu Mengmeng felt nauseous and disgusted hearing that. She waved her hands and interrupted him. I don't have the mood to listen to your dirty deeds. Although I don't want your skin anymore, you still have to pay for damaging my things. Dumbo was stunned and looked at Gu Mengmeng in fear, afraid that she would think of another way to torture him. Gu Mengmeng smiled kindly. Although no matter how kind she smiled now, Dumbo still had goosebumps all over his body and chills from the bottom of his feet. Gu Mengmeng saw that her smile did not work on Dumbo, so she rubbed her cheeks and stopped pretending. Heaving a sigh of relief, Gu Mengmeng asked seriously, answer 3 of my questions and I won't pursue the matter regarding the beast skin. How about that? Gu Mengmeng could see Dumbo visibly heaving a sigh of relief. Then, he crawled down again and pressed his face against the ground, saying, Sauder is the Great Messenger's tribe. All the members of Sauder are loyal to the Great Messenger. No matter what you want to know, Dumbo will definitely answer truthfully. Gu Mengmeng sneered, thinking to herself that he should not act like a pretentious person right from the start. If he was so sensible from the start, why did he have to create such a huge mess? She thought to herself, but did not show it on her face. She replied perfunctorily, very good, very good. Then, she started to cut to the chase. Her seemingly nonchalant eyes stared closely at all of Dumbo's body movements to determine if he was lying. Slowly, Gu Mengmeng opened her mouth to ask the first question, who was the one who told you my whereabouts? Actually, Gu Mengmeng had an answer in her heart. It was just that she did not want to blame the wrong person before she had concrete evidence. Unfortunately, the modern people were too sensitive to things like scheming against each other. Those methods here were really not enough. It was too easy to guess and it was hard to even think wrongly. It's a female from Saint Nazaire, called Nina. She was the one who passed the message to me, saying that the messenger is in Saint Nazaire tribe. As expected, Gu Mengmeng sneered. This Nina's tactics were really not that brilliant. She probably wanted to use the verification process of this messenger to get rid of her. It was a pity that she had found the wrong helper. This messenger was an idiot. With just a simple trick, she really thought that she was the messenger of the beast deity. Moreover, she was the biological daughter of the beast deity, the messenger of the beast deity who was a relative of the emperor. Furthermore, even though his skills were not bad, it was a pity that he was not as solid as Elvis's, which had been honed on the battlefield. Although it might be difficult for Elvis to kill him, it was impossible for him to take advantage of Elvis. Especially with Leah here, as long as this Dumbo was not really stupid, even if he knew that she was not the messenger of the beast deity, he would not dare to fight with her. Gu Mengmeng sneered and did not say a word. She saw someone sneaking away. It seemed to be one of Nina's partners. Did he send a message? Gu Mengmeng sighed in her heart. Up to you, run if you can. Killing a chicken is also a dirty job. The second question, other than you, who else knows that I am here? Gu Mengmeng continued asking. Dumbo did not dare to delay and immediately replied, because the millennium period is approaching, there have been many females who want to pass themselves off as the great messenger in these 2 years. The mission of us messengers is to identify the authenticity one by one. Only when we meet the real great messenger, then we will send a message to the tribe. If it's fake. Aside from the topic, calm down, my babies, calm down. I know that your hatred for Nina has risen to another level, but I still have the same words. She has not finished courting death. Chapter 204. Dumbo did not finish his sentence, but his body started trembling uncontrollably again. Gu Mengmeng sneered and thought to herself, if it's fake, just kill him directly. It's really simple, violent and efficient. He was not afraid that the messenger of the beast deity was an idiot like him. With that claw of his just now, this messenger of the beast deity who had waited for thousands of years would be dead. But Gu Mengmeng did not bring up the past at this moment. Instead, she slowly threw out her third question, if I don't go with you, what will happen? Dumbo's body obviously froze, like a zombie doll in a horror box whose switch had been activated. He lifted his head abruptly and looked at Gu Mengmeng in shock, as if they had never thought of this problem after waiting for thousands of years. The new messenger of the beast deity did not return to solder. Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, I'm quite happy staying in Saint Nazaire. I don't want to spend time to adapt to the new environment. So I won't go with you. Then in this situation, what should I do? Dumbo's mind went blank. Solder had been the messenger tribe for thousands of years, and every day, they were preparing to welcome the next messenger of the beast deity. Now that the messenger of the beast deity had been found, she said, she was not going. Gu Mengmeng's words were like a huge basin of ice water, splashing onto Dumbo's head. The huge sense of betrayal made him speechless for a moment. He stared at Gu Mengmeng for a long time with a pair of widened eyes. Finally, he lowered his body silently and replied with his head lowered, where the messenger is, the Solder tribe will be. If the great messenger doesn't want to leave, then, let's Solder move here. Gu Mengmeng frowned. He did not say to join but to move here. Then, did they want to expel the current members of Saint Nazaire or massacre them? Gu Mengmeng sneered and squinted her eyes, saying, you have already answered my 3 questions, so I won't argue with you about the beast skin. But, you hurt my tribesmen, how should we settle this score? Dumbo looked around. These useless trash were actually called tribesmen by the new messenger of the beast deity? No, it should not be like this. Dumbo forced himself to calm down from the surprise of finding the messenger of the beast deity and quickly calculated how to deal with the situation in front of him. But the identity of the messenger of the beast deity was noble and inviolable. If she was unwilling, he did not have the ability nor the guts to force her. If it was this tribe called Saint Nazaire that had obstructed the messenger, then this tribe had no meaning to exist. After scanning the surroundings, Sagwa's gaze landed back on Li's face. His identity was special. If he could make use of it, he might be able to change the emissary's mind. In just a few breaths of time, Dumbo had already calculated countless feasible or basically feasible plans in his mind. Leah took out a piece of white fox skin from the high-quality beast skin and passed it to Elvis. The wind is about to blow. Bring Mengmeng back first. If she gets blown by the wind, she will fall sick. Elvis frowned, looked at Dumbo and said, I have to settle this matter first. Leah patted Elvis's shoulder lightly and said, you have to use your hands to carry Mengmeng. It's not good to dirty them. As Leah spoke, he tilted his head slightly and continued to smile warmly, but with a hint of coldness. He continued, leave these matters to me. Elvis did not say anything more. He nodded and carried Gu Mengmeng back. Aside from the topic, I originally wanted to write Dumbo to death today, but from the looks of it, he is obviously not dead yet. Chapter 205. Don't go, I haven't finished speaking. He injured our people, we can't just let it go like this, right? Gu Mengmeng struggled for a while, but it was obviously useless. Elvis gently caressed the back of Gu Mengmeng's head and pressed her little face onto his shoulder. He kissed the side of her face and then whispered into her ear, you've done enough, leave the rest to us. Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. What did she do? Didn't she just stand at the side like a dog relying on its master's power? Goo, no, it was a fox assuming the majesty of a tiger. Yes, it was a fox assuming the majesty of a tiger to act cool. Elvis didn't stop or explain. He just walked straight towards his own cave. And behind them, until Gu Meng Meng had completely disappeared beyond the horizon, Leo was sure that she would definitely not hear the filthy sounds here. Only then did he turn around and look coldly at Dumbo, who was kneeling on the ground. He was still smiling on his face, with a faint coldness. Messengers usually travel in pairs. Where's the other one traveling with you? Dumbo saw that Gu Meng Meng was no longer around, and the psychological pressure in his heart was reduced by quite a bit. He had some fear towards this banished Ninth Highness. Although he had thought it through after calming down, Leo was still a third-level orc, which obviously meant that he had not mated yet. If he had really mated with the partner of the beast deity, with the help of the beast deity, wouldn't he have become a king long ago? However, even if he did not mate with the mother beast of the messenger, his relationship with the messenger was obviously not ordinary. So if it was possible, Dumbo still wanted to rope Leah in. Thus, Dumbo forced himself to stand up from the ground. Elvis had indeed beaten him up badly just now, but he had dodged the fatal attack. It was only because he saw the messenger of the beast deity, and not only did he personally see the messenger of the beast deity toying with the flame devil like a ghost, he even knew that the new messenger of the beast deity was actually the biological daughter of the beast deity. This explosive news made his legs wobbly, so he could not stand up. Dumbo patted the dust off his body, trying his best to regain his dignity as a messenger of the messenger's tribe. He said to Leah with an ambiguous smile, "Ninth Highness, why do you ask when you already know the answer? One messenger is always in the light while the other is in the dark. When I confirmed the identity of Sir Messenger, TA should have already returned to the tribe to report." Leah was still smiling faintly, his expression calm. Dumbo did not get a response from Leah, but was not annoyed. He just slowly approached Leah and smiled ambiguously. "Ninth Highness, you don't have to be so guarded against me. Actually, as long as you can convince the Great Messenger to return to Sauter, you will still be the high and mighty Ninth Highness. With the Great Messenger as your backing, even the Second Highness would not dare to say anything against you. Why do you have to lower yourself to be a witch doctor with no future in a small Saint Nazir?" Li's smile spread across his lips. He stood at the same spot and did not move at all. He just watched as Dumbo approached him step by step. By the time he finished speaking, he was already less than half an arm's length away from him. Leah suddenly raised his hand and strangled Dumbo's neck. The smile on his lips was like a poppy, blooming brightly and dangerously. His thin lips opened slightly, and Leah said word by word, "I warned you before, don't call me Ninth Highness anymore." Dumbo wanted to resist, but he realized that Li's fingernails had already embedded into the skin on his neck, right at his blood vessel. If he dared to move an inch, that blood vessel would be cut open. Aside from the topic, soon, he would be completely dead in the next segment. Chapter 206. What do you want to do? Dumbo's expression started to tense up. He mouthed as softly as he could, "I am Sauter's messenger. If you kill me, I am already an exiled person. What can Sauter do to me?" Leah smiled calmly, as if he did not take Dumbo's words to heart. He retracted his arm and pulled Dumbo even tighter. Then, he whispered into his ear, "Moreover, don't I have the messenger of the beast deity to back me up? What can your Second Highness do to me now?" With that, Leah raised his eyes and looked not far away. Suddenly, the smile on his lips grew wider. Dumbo did not dare to move recklessly. He tried his best to turn his eyeballs, trying to follow Li's gaze. What exactly made him smile so horribly? Leah sensed Dumbo's intention. Not only was he not angry, he smiled kindly instead, "Seeing that we used to be from the same tribe, I will let you die in peace." Leah slowly retracted his fingernails from Dumbo's neck. Then, he suddenly twisted his fingers forcefully. With a crack, Dumbo's neck broke. And before his neck was broken, the last thing he saw in his beast life was the corpse of his partner, who was supposed to report back to Sauter, thrown mercilessly at his feet. "You Dumbo did not have the chance to finish his last words before he breathed his last. Leah used Dumbo's clothes to wipe his hands. Then, he told Barit, who went to kill another messenger, do it cleanly, and, the mighty messenger does not need to know about these things. Just tell her that Dumbo ran away. Barit frowned and looked at Leah in silence for a long time. Finally, he opened his mouth to ask, Gu Meng Meng, is she really the messenger of the beast deity? Leah looked at the 20 over heavily injured tribesmen, then at Barit. He nodded his head cautiously and answered, the messenger of the previous messenger's tribe would not make a mistake. From today onwards, we have to shoulder the responsibility of the new messenger's tribe and assist the mighty messenger well. Before trouble finds her, we have to settle it cleanly and cleanly. Barit lowered his head and replied in a capable manner, yes, Sir Witch Doctor. On the other side, Gu Meng Meng, who was carried back to the cave by Elvis, was still laughing out loud. She said while eating her dried salted fish, that Dumbo really lives up to his name, so silly. You actually believe that I am the messenger of the beast deity, and the daughter of the beast deity. Ha ha ha, looks like the so-called messenger tribe is not that close to the beast deity. Elvis remained silent. He broke a branch and threw it into the fire pit. The flames danced and shone on his face. His voice was low and hoarse as he asked with a rare seriousness, if you are really the messenger of the beast deity, will you still choose to stay in Saint Nazaire? Gu Meng Meng tapped her chin lightly with her finger and thought for a moment before saying, probably. I've never been to the tribe of the messengers of the beast deity. The only person I've seen is this Dumbo. He's not very smart and is full of evil tricks. He's arrogant and annoying. I still prefer the people of Saint Nazaire. Other than Nina, they are all very friendly. They are much easier to get along with. Elvis slowly heaved a sigh of relief before looking straight at Gu Meng Meng. His pair of blue eyes carried a cautious and solemn look as he slowly opened his mouth and said, Xiao Meng, you are really the messenger of the beast deity. That messenger, you did not make a mistake. Aside from the topic, come, the messenger is dead. Let's prepare for winter next. Chapter 207. Stop fooling around, how is that possible? Gu Meng Meng smiled and waved her hands, thinking to herself, she is a genuine atheist, she has never seen that beast deity before. But looking at Elvis's serious eyes, Gu Meng Meng faintly felt uneasy. Then, she probed, what characteristics made you think that I am the messenger of the beast deity? Elvis replied, your beauty is enough to prove everything. Gu Meng Meng burst out laughing, asking, why? Your beast deity is from the Foreign Trade Association? So those who are good-looking are all his messengers? Elvis did not laugh, but replied seriously, in the beast world, there will never be a female as beautiful as you. In history, other than you, the only other person with such beauty was the previous messenger of the beast deity. Gu Meng Meng pouted, didn't you say that she died thousands of years ago? How do you know what she looks like? Have you seen her before? Are you actually the old demon of the Black Mountain? Ha 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 ha. Elvis sighed, it was clearly a serious question, why did it become so humorous when it came to Gu Meng Meng? Even he wanted to laugh along with them. This made the tension between him and Leah look so funny and boring. Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis's neck, acting like they were close brothers. Think about it, if being good-looking means being the messenger of the beast deity, then I think my Sandy is also very pretty, why don't you call her the messenger of the beast deity? Elvis said, she is not pretty, you are. Gu Meng Meng said, TSK. You put it this way, I am actually a little happy to hear it. But, whether someone is pretty or not, this is very subjective. I think Sandy is very pretty, but you don't think so. Similarly, you think I am pretty, but others might think I am ugly, right? Elvis shook his head, saying, no one will think so. Gu Meng Meng laughed till her shoulders shook, saying, I didn't expect you to be so serious in your bootlicking, I admire you, admire you. Elvis was helpless, he could only try to convince Gu Meng Meng from another angle, so he said, and the messenger of the beast deity knows many things that we don't. For example, the method of storing food that you taught us, or, fire. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "You also know that my background is a little mysterious. Even if I explain it to you, you might not understand. To put it simply, what I teach everyone is called common sense in our world, the kind that anyone on the street would know. For example, it was common for you to transform in Saint Nazir because every male knew how to transform. But if you were in our country, then you would be amazing. You could just walk around the streets for a while and there would be talent scouts pulling you to be a celebrity, just because you were good looking. If they also know that you can transform, that might not be a good thing. They might treat you like a monster and capture you for all kinds of cruel scientific research. Forget it, you're safer in Saint Nazir." Elvis was helpless. He could not win against Gu Mengmeng with his eloquence. Throwing the remaining half of the firewood that he had been holding for a long time into the fire, Elvis turned to look at Gu Mengmeng, who had a leisurely look on her face. In the end, he still let go of the heavy burden in his heart and smiled along with her bright and beautiful eyes. It's snowing." Gu Mengmeng stretched out her hand to catch the snowflakes that floated into the cave. She was as excited as a child. Aside from the topic, "Thank you, Xian baby, for the 588 views." Then, he replied to the message left by the little baby from Book City. "You asked, why did the male lead who appeared so tall and mighty become a little dazed after Gu Mengmeng's description? That was because when they first met, Elvis entered the forest with the identity of a hunter. That was his area of expertise, his confidence and temperament were unparalleled. But to him, Gu Mengmeng was a brand new and unpredictable territory. He had never fallen for any female before and did not know how to make this little female like him. He was so cautious and even clumsy. All this was because he had no experience. You really could not expect a single man who was born to a mother to immediately open his conception and governing vessels and become an expert in picking up girls after meeting the female lead. Chapter 208. Elvis tugged at Gu Mengmeng and pulled her back from the entrance of the cave. After thinking for a while, he hugged her into his arms and turned around, facing his back to the entrance of the cave to prevent the cold wind from blowing on her. "It's snowing, it means that winter has arrived. Females are weak and cannot leave the cave anymore. They will fall sick." Gu Mengmeng was not convinced. What a joke, not going out when it's snowing. Then do the children in the Northeast have to stay at home for half a year for the winter? Gu Mengmeng struggled to leave, but Elvis shook his head and rejected her. Seeing that it was useless to be shameless, Gu Mengmeng changed her policy and continued to bluff. "We have a custom. During the first snow, we have to walk in the snow with the person we like. Because as we walk, our hair will turn white." Elvis did not understand and asked, "White hair?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Yes, it's to use the time of the snow to experience the feeling of growing old together. Isn't it very romantic?" Elvis nodded his head in a daze. However, he did not know what the so-called romance was. Just like the story Gu Mengmeng told Sandy previously, about Jean. Sandy would never get tired of listening to it, and Maya was so mesmerized that she asked Gu Mengmeng to repeat it over and over again. Even Nina, who hated Gu Mengmeng the most, would hide far away and eavesdrop on them. But in the eyes of the males, that Jean was simply trash. He had also listened to them patiently a few times, but he could not understand why those females would suddenly shout in excitement, and then hug each other and laugh so wretchedly. He tried to ask questions, but he was rejected mercilessly by the females. Later, he learned to be smart. He never asked romantic questions again, because he only needed to know that it was what the females liked. Or, he only needed to know that it was what Xiao Meng liked, and he would do it. That was enough. Seeing Elvis nodding his head, Gu Mengmeng shook his arm and said, "How about it? Do you want to experience it?" Elvis was actually a little tempted because Gu Mengmeng just said, "Walking in the snow with the person I like." The person I like, huh? Elvis savored these 5 words and his lips could not help but curl up into a faint smile. Gu Mengmeng saw that Elvis's expression had softened, so she continued to try her best to please him. "You smiled?" Did smiling mean that he agreed? Let's go, let's go." We're just going to play for a while. I'll wrap a few more animal skins around me. I won't get sick just by playing for a while. Elvis could not resist Gu Mengmeng's coaxing and pestering. In the end, he wrapped her up like a dumpling and carried her out of the cave. Gu Mengmeng had never seen such a heavy snowfall before. When the snowflakes floated down, she could even clearly see the direction of each pattern. In the past, out of curiosity, she had seen the true appearance of a snowflake under a microscope. It was extremely beautiful. Every fine and smooth line combined into a wonderful and beautiful picture. The shape of the snowflakes in the beast world was similar, but they were much bigger. Gu Mengmeng did not need to use a microscope to clearly see the snowflakes falling from the crystal-clear sky. It was beautiful, just like a fairyland. The speed at which the snowflakes fell was extremely fast. From the start till now, it had only been at most half an hour. But Saint Nazir was already like a building filled with cream on a birthday cake. It was so beautiful that it looked like a fairyland. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling from Xiaoxiang Academy, Dream Crossing Tea Paste, for the diamonds and flowers. Thank you very much then. If my babies have the hobby of watching Korean dramas, can you recall your partner's reaction when you watch Korean dramas? Was it a look of disdain? Yeah, magnifying this kind of disdain by about 10 times was how the males in the beast world looked at Yusi Jin. Chapter 209. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and reached out her hand to catch a snowflake. The snow did not melt immediately in her hand, but after 3 to 5 seconds, it slowly melted into water. The water was crystal clear, reflecting the sunlight and emitting a gorgeous glow. Gu Mengmeng smiled slyly, then rubbed her 2 hands together, spreading the ice-cold water droplets in her palms. Her palms became cold, then she placed her hands on Elvis's neck at lightning speed, waiting in surprise to see Elvis jumping up and down from the cold. However, when she looked up, she met Elvis's eyes that were focused on her. That pair of blue eyes only reflected her own image clearly. Other than her, everything else in this world seemed to be meaningless and pale. Gu Mengmeng was touched by his gaze and she retracted her hands, smiling awkwardly. Why aren't you afraid of the cold? It's really not fun. Elvis rubbed her little head, replying, I'm a wolf. With that, he carried Gu Mengmeng into the cave. Gu Mengmeng did not play enough and shamelessly said that she wanted to build a snowman and have a snowball fight. Elvis did not listen to her, saying that if they did not go back, the cave entrance would be sealed by the snow and they would not be able to go back even if they wanted to. Although Gu Mengmeng felt that it could not be that exaggerated, when she turned around, she realized that the snow was getting heavier and heavier. The frequency of the falling snow was no longer like a beautiful song, but rather a terrifying aura. Gu Mengmeng did not make a fuss anymore and obediently nestled in Elvis's arms, entering the cave together. Elvis had already stored firewood in the cave. Leah had calculated that these firewood could last an entire winter, enough for Gu Mengmeng to keep warm and cook. Now that the weather had suddenly turned cold, it could be put to good use. Elvis took out the old clothes that Gu Mengmeng had worn in the past from the cave at the side and laid them on the ground, stacking them layer by layer to form a praying mat. Then, he placed Gu Mengmeng on it and lifted the beast's skin that was stained with snow to roast it at the side. Then, he used the dry beast skin to wrap her up again. All these actions were natural and practiced. Even Elvis himself was very surprised. It had only been a month, but he could already take care of Gu Mengmeng with ease. Elvis, how did you guys survive the winter when you didn't have a fire? Gu Mengmeng held onto a wooden cup filled with the hot water that Elvis had just passed to her. Elvis took some clean snow from the entrance of the cave and placed it into the stone pot to continue cooking while replying, lie in the cave and try not to move. Gu Mengmeng found it unbelievable and asked with a smile, do you wolves hibernate too? Elvis shook his head. I don't hibernate. Gu Mengmeng said, then why don't you guys make a bigger cave so that everyone can stay together and chat? The winter is long, how lonely it is to be alone. Elvis's hand paused for a moment before he replied slowly, if we gather together and lack food, it will be very hard for us to control our own primal instincts. We don't want to hurt our companions. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She thought for a while before she understood what Elvis meant. Under extreme hunger, they might treat their companions as food. In order to prevent such a situation from happening, they would each spend the long and torturous winter in their own caves. Aside from the topic, thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's Little Darling, Yanran 520, for the flowers. Also thank you to QQ Reading's Little Darling, Xian, for the 588 reading points. Then, now that winter had started, it was time for Elvis and Gu Mengmeng to nurture their relationship. When the water temperature was about right, mating would be a matter of time. Then, after mating, the novel should be published. Chapter 210. A bomb exploded in Gu Mengmeng's head and she stood up abruptly. Oh no. Sandy. Elvis was shocked by her sudden action and he immediately pressed her back onto the beast skin praying mat in amusement, although compared to the rainy season, the food during winter is much lesser. But compared to the previous years, this year's situation is already very good. So don't worry, Sandy's partners should be fine. Gu Mengmeng was anxious but she could not break free from Elvis's embrace, so she could only scrunch up her face into a bun and say, "Who's worried about them? I'm just worried that they might eat Sandy up because they don't have enough to eat." Ah, it must be so, that's why they fed Sandy till she became so fat. This stupid Sandy, still eating so much all day long, what should we do? Elvis was stunned again and only realized what Gu Mengmeng was worried about after a while. He used his finger to knock on her forehead heavily. Seeing her holding her forehead in pain and glaring at him, Elvis then said helplessly, "I really want to know, what exactly is in your little head?" Gu Mengmeng pouted and to express her protest, she decided to ignore Elvis. Elvis sighed and gently removed her little hand that was covering her forehead. Then, he used his large hand to cover the red mark on her forehead and continued with a pained and helpless tone, "Males will never hurt their own females. No matter how hungry they are, they will never treat their own females as food. On the contrary, they are highly likely to commit suicide when their females are hungry and they are unable to get any food, using themselves as food to prolong their female's life." Gu Mengmeng was stunned by his words. F*******. Such a heavy taste. Eat her own husband? Sandy, Elvis held on to Gu Mengmeng's little hand and continued, "Sandy is a bear. She basically sleeps during winter and rarely eats anything. So in her cave, there has never been a precedent of a male being treated as food." Hearing Elvis's words, Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief. If she heard any terrifying news, she really did not know how she would face Sandy in the future. Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng suddenly recalled something. She tilted her head and asked Elvis, "So, a while ago, Barit said he wanted to come over to our place during winter out of the blue. It was because..." Elvis nodded and said, "I want to give him to you as reserve food." Gu Mengmeng felt stifled. How blind were the males in this beast world towards love? Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng's chin and said with a straight face, "I rejected him because I feel that it's enough to have me as your reserve food." Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, Don't we have a lot of salted meat and fish to make? Don't we also have a lot of potatoes and sweet potatoes? There are so many things to eat. Can we not eat people? I really can't do such a hardcore thing." But Elvis replied calmly, "I am a wolf." Gu Mengmeng held her forehead, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She had never seen a second person like Elvis who strongly recommended others to eat him up. Gu Mengmeng sighed and held on to Elvis's hands with both of her hands. She looked into his eyes seriously and replied, "No one would use their own husky to make dog meat hot pot, and no one would use their own wolf as reserve food. This is really not something humans would do. We have a lot of things to eat, can we not write our names on the menu?" Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling, Hamura, from Xiaoxiang Academy for giving 2 comment votes, and thank you to the little darling, Hanshi Jian Lu, from QQ Reading for tipping 100 reading points. Chapter 211. Elvis held on to Gu Mengmeng lovingly and rubbed her little head with his chin. He then said softly, "If you say you don't want to eat, then don't eat. If one day you want to eat, Gu Mengmeng hurriedly shook her head and said, "No, no, no. I won't eat my friends even if I starve to death." "Friends?" Elvis tilted his head and looked into Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He asked, "The kind of friends that you can care about, hug and kiss?" Gu Mengmeng choked on her own saliva. Damn, how could he still remember this joke? "Hey, don't look at me with that face of anticipation. How can I say no when you look at me like this?" Gu Mengmeng bit the bullet and nodded her head in the end. Feeling a little guilty, Elvis's smile instantly bloomed. He used one hand to support Gu Mengmeng's chin and brought it to his lips gently. The tip of his nose rubbed against Gu Mengmeng's little nose. Elvis said with a slightly hoarse voice, "This day, I have waited for so long." With that, he kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips deeply. Gu Mengmeng's brain was like Hiroshima after World War II. Her ears were filled with the echoes of the atomic bomb. Her brain was filled with paste and she could not form an accurate thought. She should have rejected him, right? She should have told him that she did not mean it that way. But towards Elvis's kiss, she actually did not feel repulsed. Instead, she even felt a little enjoyment. Gu Mengmeng slowly closed her eyes and allowed Elvis to do whatever he wanted from her mouth. Her brain could not think, but her heart had never thought through something so clearly before. After leaving Leah, she jumped across a lake out of hurt feelings and wanted to return to the modern world from there. This method obviously did not work, but she did not think of any other way to return. Instead, she started to bring everyone to marinate meat and find potatoes to prepare for winter. Initially, she thought she was just finding a reason to numb herself so that she would not face the pain of being heartbroken. But, was it really like that? She was not a fool. How could she not know what kind of attitude Elvis was using to take care of her? She clearly knew how the beast world viewed relationships, but she still accepted Elvis's care with a clear conscience, didn't she? She knew that the mountains would be sealed by snow during the cold winter and she would be staying in the same cave with Elvis for the entire winter. It was highly possible that something would happen between them. Could she say that she did not expect it? Just like this kiss, was it a surprise? Accident. But, she didn't dare to say that she had never looked forward to it. Gu Mengmeng slowly wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and started to cater to his kiss. This small act rewarded Elvis, making him even more fearless. Elvis pushed Gu Mengmeng onto the ground and before her head hit the ground, he placed his hand under her head to prevent her from getting hurt. He let go of her moist and plump lips and turned to kiss her earlobe. His breathing was rapid and heavy against her ear, making her body restless. Gu Mengmeng could feel her body changing, but the last bit of rationality she had left made her ask a question. Even though it would spoil the mood, she knew she would regret it if she did not ask. Biting her lower lip, Gu Mengmeng asked in a voice that was close to a moan, "If I say I'm not willing to mate now, will you force me or leave me like Leah?" Out of topic. Thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's little darling, Wangxing 99, for the flowers and comments. Then. Biting her finger, Gu Mengmeng asked softly, "What if he doesn't come? What do you plan to do if I don't want to mate?" "Then I'll wait. As long as you don't leave me, I don't care about anything else." Elvis's voice was very calm and light. It did not sound like the sweet nothings that guys usually use to coax girls into bed. Instead, it was a voice that came from the bottom of his heart. It was convincing and calming. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath, looked up and kissed Elvis's chin. She squinted her eyes and said, "Elvis, I think I might like you. Aside from the topic." Chapter 213. The power of this sentence was really comparable to the atomic bomb that bombed Hiroshima back then, instantly shattering Elvis's rationality into smithereens. He lowered his head with a stiff neck, looking at the blushing little person in his arms. Her eyes that had been crying just now were like the sky that had been washed by water, clear and clean. She just raised her little face to look at him, calling out his name. He thought that he would never hear this sentence in his entire life. Elvis felt elated and blissful. He felt that all the beautiful words in this world were not enough to describe his current feelings. He hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, and after a long while, he finally said, "Thank you." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her little head against Elvis's chest, trying to find a comfortable angle. She curled her lips and muttered, "What are you thanking me for, silly? Thank you for being willing to stay in Saint Nazaire. Thank you for letting me take care of you. Thank you for liking me." Elvis felt a breath slowly being released from his chest. Previously, it had been pressing against his chest, so he did not feel any discomfort. But now that it was released, he really felt his entire body become comfortable. "Xiao Meng, are you hungry? Do you want me to get something for you to eat?" Elvis stroked Gu Mengmeng's back gently and asked. "Ugh. I don't feel like eating." Gu Mengmeng closed her eyes, feeling that her eyes were a little dry and stinging. Her head was also dizzy and she really wanted to sleep for a while. Elvis sensed Gu Mengmeng's abnormality and used his hand to caress her little face. He realized that the blush on her face was not because of shyness, but because she was having a fever. Elvis instantly became anxious and patted Gu Mengmeng's little face lightly. Xiao Meng, don't sleep first, don't sleep, all right?" Gu Mengmeng was extremely dissatisfied with Elvis's behavior of not letting her sleep. She wanted to scold him but could not muster up any energy. She just whimpered and turned her head, hanging back into Elvis's arms and curling into a ball, just like a puppy that had not been weaned yet acting coquettishly in its mother's arms. Elvis was extremely vexed. He must have caught a cold when he brought Gu Mengmeng out to play in the snow just now. After returning to the cave, he immediately warmed himself by the fire and even wrapped a lot of beast skin to warm himself up. Then, he kissed her uncontrollably and the beast skin wrapped around her fell off unknowingly. After that, he even broke apart the snow blocking the entrance of the cave to get some fresh air. The cold wind rushed into the cave and froze her again. Elvis really wanted to kill himself. Because of his negligence, Xiao Meng had fallen sick. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I'll get Leia. She'll be fine." Even Elvis himself did not know if he was comforting Gu Mengmeng or himself with his words. He wanted to place Gu Mengmeng by the fire pit and look for Leia. But Gu Mengmeng hugged onto Elvis's waist tightly and refused to let go. When he wanted to pull away, she would whimper and look like she was about to cry. Elvis panicked and coaxed Gu Mengmeng, "Be good, wait for me for a while, just a while." But Gu Mengmeng pressed her little face against Elvis's chest, frowning and whining, don't abandon me, don't abandon me. I beg you." Elvis was at his wit's end. He could not carry Gu Mengmeng who was having a high fever and dash out, nor could he forcefully pull her down from his body. If it was any other time, he could still howl in the cave to send a message to Leia. But it just so happened that the snow had sealed off the mountain. Even if his voice could pass through the snow at the entrance of the cave, it would be drowned out by the sound of the wind. What to do, what to do? Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling from Shaoxiang Academy, W. Mumu, for her 2 recommendation votes. Susu, Elvis, don't be anxious. Let me give you an idea. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng, his blue eyes sweeping sharply at the innocent Susu. Speak. Susu, don't stare at me. If you stare at me, I'll be so scared that I'll forget everything. Elvis clenched his teeth and closed his eyes. Speak quickly. Susu shrugged helplessly and smiled evilly. Do you know why people will rub their hands when they're cold? Elvis shook his head impatiently. Susu said with a look of disdain, sigh, it's really unwise to bring a little pure male lead. There's a communication barrier. Elvis suddenly opened his eyes and glared at her. Susu shrunk her neck timidly and smiled obsequiously. Don't be angry, don't be angry. It's like this, there's a term called friction warmth, understand? Elvis frowned, clearly not understanding. Elvis did not know how much this thing should be cooked to be considered good, but the smell of ginger was getting stronger and there was even a strange smell. Yeah, if Elvis had cooked before, he would know that this smell was burnt. After persevering for a while, Elvis saw that the pot was starting to emit black smoke and the bottom of the pot was emitting a strange sound. Nodding his head, Elvis was sure that this was a sign that the medicine was ready. So, he took the pot down from the fire. Even if his hands were burning in pain, he did not care at all. He placed the medicine at the side steadily, then used a small spoon to scoop something that he could not tell if it was ginger or fish and send it to Gu Mengmeng's mouth. He coaxed her as gently as he could, "Xiao Meng, be good, open your mouth and eat the medicine. Then, you won't feel so bad anymore." Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Xiaoxiang Academy, Gu Guang HH, for the rating tickets. Thank you very much then. Sometimes, I really doubt if I am Elvis's real mother. It was obvious that Elvis was extremely anxious in this chapter, but I just wanted to laugh for some reason. What should I do? Also, the little baby protested to me, saying that the atmosphere in the first 2 chapters was so good, why did it suddenly stop? I even took off my pants and I just let you guys see this? Yeah, I was purposely torturing them, so what? The orange-red flames illuminated Elvis's silhouette, making him look very gentle and comforting. He turned around and smiled at Gu Mengmeng, who was lying on the bed and looking at him, before replying, "The situation where I will starve to death if I don't eat is called a last resort." Gu Mengmeng asked, "What you mean is, unless you're about to starve to death, otherwise all the food in this cave is for me to eat?" Elvis nodded his head seriously. Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She stretched her hand out from the beast's skin and gestured for Elvis to come over. Elvis sat by the bed and used his freshly warmed hand to hold her little hand. He gently tidied the stray hairs stuck to her forehead due to her sweat. His blue eyes were filled with heartache. Aside from the topic, if nothing goes wrong, this article will be published in January. So my babies, don't save too many articles and finish reading as soon as possible. Otherwise, the content you see now will all be charged in the future. Chapter 216. Gu Mengmeng held on to Elvis's hand. Although she was feeling very uncomfortable, she felt an unprecedented sense of ease and comfort in her heart. Elvis gave her a sense of security that she had never experienced before, and this feeling fascinated her. I originally prepared these things according to the amount for 2 people. So you don't have to worry that I will starve just because you eat them. Gu Mengmeng placed Elvis's hand on her face. Although his hand had been roasted, it was still cooler than her face, which was burning with a high fever. Gu Mengmeng felt that her face was not so hot after being placed on by his hand. She felt more relaxed and continued, "Moreover, if you don't eat and I fall sick again, how will you have the energy to take care of me? Right?" Elvis's heart ached when he saw Gu Mengmeng forcing herself to talk to him. He could hear how uncomfortable her throat was, but she was still worried about whether she could eat or not. This made him feel warm and guilty at the same time. If he could store more food, Xiao Meng would not have to worry about these things. This time, it resulted in Elvis hunting crazily a month before every winter. He would not feel at ease if he did not fill the cave with food. Of course, this was a story for the future. Let's not talk about it now. Elvis placed his other hand on Gu Mengmeng's little face and held her little head with both hands, as if he was holding the most precious treasure in the world. He asked carefully, "Tell me, how can I make you feel better?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis. Gu Mengmeng used her chin to point at the stone pot that was boiling snow. She said, "Drinking more hot water is a universal remedy. At my place, all guys know that drinking more hot water will cure all illnesses." This was indeed a joke. Under normal circumstances, guys who told girls to drink more hot water would either go from having a girlfriend to not having one, or go from not having a girlfriend to never having one. This was obviously an answer that would be shot at. But for a cold and fever, as well as Gu Mengmeng's current medical resources, this was the best remedy. Elvis looked at the pot and confirmed again, "Just drinking hot water will do?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Smelling the ginger scent in the air, she added, "Put 2 slices of ginger in and boil it. The effect will be better. Elvis nodded, then retracted his hand and walked into the depths of the cave. He took out 2 handfuls of ginger eyes and was about to throw them into the pot. Wait! Gu Meng Meng reached out her Erkang hand to stop him. Her eyebrows twitched as she asked, "Are you trying to kill me with the spiciness?" Elvis was at a loss as he looked at Gu Meng Meng helplessly. Gu Meng Meng propped herself up and sat up. She pointed at the ginger in Elvis's hand and said, "Just take 1 piece and put the rest aside." Elvis did as he was told and picked the biggest piece. Then, he looked at Gu Meng Meng and was about to throw it into the pot. Gu Meng Meng face-bombed and said helplessly, "Give me the ginger in your hand." Elvis probably realized that he must have done something wrong, so he did not say anything and just walked to Gu Meng Meng's bedside with the ginger, passing it to her. Chapter 217. A pot of ginger water was quickly cooked and Elvis scooped a small bowl for Gu Meng Meng to drink. After Gu Meng Meng drank a bowl of ginger water, she felt much more comfortable. She pushed the bowl to Elvis, letting him drink a bowl to warm his body. Elvis was a little hesitant. This was Gu Meng Meng's medicine, how could he eat it? Gu Meng Meng smiled. These 2 pieces of ginger could be boiled for an entire day. She just had to throw some snow into the pot after drinking it. Gu Meng Meng guaranteed again and again that the ginger in the cave was enough for her to use for an entire winter. Only then did Elvis reluctantly drink a bowl. This was the sweetest thing he had ever tasted in the world. A sense of bliss spread throughout his body. After drinking the ginger water, Gu Meng Meng fell into a deep sleep once again. In her dreams, she felt that she had returned to her university dormitory bed. The white furry bear at the head of the bed was smiling at her. She hugged the big bear in her arms and rubbed her face against its fur. Satisfied, she rode on the big bear and fell asleep. But the reality was that Elvis was originally sitting at the side of the bed, but was pulled onto the bed by Gu Meng Meng with his beastskin dress. His beastskin dress was torn off by her, while his naked body was ridden in her arms. His entire body was so stiff that he did not dare to move, afraid that he would make her feel uncomfortable in her sleep. The cave was dark. There was almost no trace of time in this cave. The snow sealed the entrance of the cave so tightly that Gu Meng Meng and Elvis did not even know whether it was night or day outside. Gu Meng Meng did not know how long she had slept, but when she opened her eyes again, her fever had subsided, and she was lying on Elvis's body like an octopus in a hooligan position. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while, would it be less awkward if she screamed and retracted her hand, then put the blame on him instead? The answer was obviously no. There were still a few months left for her to be alone with Elvis. If she gave such a reaction now, it would probably be even more awkward in the future. So should she hug him in her arms like how Princess Janning slept with Wei Xiaobao and say, "From today onwards, you are mine, I will treat you well"? She sized up Elvis's physique. Yeah, it's a little difficult to hug him. Just when Gu Meng Meng was in a dilemma as to what kind of attitude she should take to face this awkward situation, Elvis spoke first. "Are you thirsty? I'll get you a bowl of ginger soup." Oh, all right. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head, her eyes darting around awkwardly, not daring to look at Elvis. Elvis kissed her forehead and said, "You have to let go of me first before I can scoop the soup for you." Gu Meng Meng then realized that she was still stuck to Elvis's body, so she bounced back as if she was electrocuted and wrapped herself tightly with the beast skin. Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and laughed dryly. "I don't sleep well, especially when I have a fever. My brain is in a mess from the fever. I'm not like this usually, really." Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng and said, "I don't sleep well, especially when I have a fever." Elvis walked back with the soup and blew on it to cool it down before sending it to Gu Meng Meng's mouth. He smiled warmly and did not say a word. Chapter 218. Gu Meng Meng almost choked to death on her own saliva. She looked at Elvis sadly and thought to herself, "Your words are not comforting me at all right?" Elvis touched Gu Meng Meng's face and slowly heaved a sigh of relief. "It's not burning anymore, that's great." Elvis's relieved look warmed Gu Meng Meng's heart. So this was how it felt to be treasured and cared for by someone. The fire in the cave had long been extinguished. Gu Mengmeng sat up from her blankets and could not help but shiver. She felt a little cold. Just as she was about to crawl back into the blankets, Elvis had already carried her in his arms. The blankets won't be warm after being lifted. You can't catch a cold again, it's better if I carry you, Elvis said as he took a piece of wood from the side and started a new fire. Are you hungry? I'll cook for you. Once Elvis said that, Gu Mengmeng's blood instantly boiled and she said agitatedly as if she was injected with chicken blood, no, calm down, don't try to cook anymore. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng as if the pause button had been pressed. They were too close and Gu Mengmeng felt immense pressure from his stare. She blinked and said, what I mean is, leave such small matters like cooking to me in the future and don't do it yourself. Elvis sat down with his legs crossed and said formally, females should be taken care of and shouldn't be involved in such matters. Gu Mengmeng gave a bitter smile helplessly and poked Elvis's head, saying, how exactly did you establish this feudalistic mentality of valuing females over males? It died out early in the morning and now it's the era of equality between males and females, understand? Elvis shook his head honestly and his serious face made Gu Mengmeng lose her temper. She sighed and said, it's very tiring for a person to take care of another person unilaterally. So. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis with an enticing and expectant gaze, indicating for him to continue her sentence. Elvis pursed his lips and seemed to be struggling for a while. Then, he looked at the entrance of the cave which was sealed by the snow and said slowly, so, you should have 2 partners. If Leah is also here. Gu Mengmeng's face darkened and she raised her hand to make a stop gesture. She said unhappily, Leah has already decided to be with Nina. He might be busy giving birth to little Leah now. I can't possibly go to Nina's bed and snatch her away just because I lack a cook, right? Moreover, you've also seen Lee's attitude towards me now. Gu Mengmeng felt suffocated and she hammered her own chest with force. She forced herself to calm down before continuing, it was not easy for me to let him go, can you not mention him anymore? Elvis remained silent and lowered his head. From the corner of his eyes, he glanced at the pile of yellow roots at the side of the cave. Wasn't that Li's attitude towards Xiaomeng? Gu Mengmeng felt that she had gone overboard in reprimanding Elvis, so she calmed herself down and stood up from Elvis's arms. She wrapped the beast's skin around her even tighter and sniffed her slightly clogged nose before saying, isn't it just cooking, I'm very good at it. Next time you go hunting, I'll cook. This is called the male takes care of the outside while the female takes care of the inside. Although at my place, female takes care of the inside, is already a thing of the past, but considering the actual situation here and my own condition, I've decided to give up the right to be a strong woman. I'll just stay at home and be a housewife. Aside from the topic, thank you to the little darling from Xiaoxiang Academy, Shengxianya, for your comments. Wen has always maintained 5 stars, I'm so happy, and thank you to the little darling from QQ Reading, don't lose and don't forget asterisk, for her tips. Recently, the most frequently asked questions in the comments, 1. Author, will you give up? Answer, the author is a good scammer. No one even read the last article and I persevered to finish writing 1,000,000 words. Moreover, this article is going to be published in January. Before it's published, I have to sign a contract with the website. If I give up, I'll face a lawsuit. Most importantly, my great editor is always holding a kitchen knife and a small leather whip and staring deeply at me. I have no doubt that if I dare to give up, she will chop me into a human meat bun. 2. Why are there fewer updates recently? Chapter 219. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng along with the beast's skin again and said, the ground is cold. Gu Mengmeng did not resist, the ground was quite cold. I don't know what equality the males and females in your world are pursuing, I only know that my female cannot be wronged. You cannot have less of what others have. At least what Bode and the rest did for Sandy, I will do the same for you. I want you to be the object of everyone's envy forever. Because you are the messenger of Saint Nazir's beast deity, and more importantly, because you are my female. Gu Mengmeng's little heart was thumping non-stop. She cupped her hands and looked at Elvis with an intoxicated expression, asking, "Are you still the husky that eats raw potatoes? What's with this domineering CEO style? Did you secretly read romance novels behind my back?" Gu Mengmeng's current expression was exactly the same as when they first met, and this was Elvis's favorite expression. The corners of his lips curled up and Elvis lightly planted a kiss on Gu Mengmeng's forehead, saying gently, "Be good and stay in my arms. You talk and I do the cooking, it's considered cooperation." Gu Mengmeng thought about it. She really did not want to reach out to dig the snow that sealed the entrance of the cave to wash the vegetables, so she smiled unkindly and said, "Then you should heat up the snow before washing the vegetables, or else it'll be too cold." Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's furry little head and said, "Silly girl, I'm a wolf, I'm not afraid of the cold." Gu Mengmeng hung onto Elvis's neck like a little monkey, her little hands caressing his pectoral muscles restlessly. She pondered seriously for a long time but still could not figure it out, so she asked Elvis shamelessly, "You don't have any fur after you transform into a human, aren't you afraid of the cold?" Elvis was a little embarrassed to ask, "You don't have any fur after you transform, aren't you afraid of the cold?" Elvis shook his head and answered, "My fur didn't disappear, I just can't see it anymore. It doesn't affect the warmth, so you don't have to worry." Gu Mengmeng gave him a thumbs up and exclaimed from the bottom of her heart, "Awesome." Under Gu Mengmeng's instructions, Elvis barely made a pot of food that could be swallowed. Actually, even though Elvis was the one who made it, Gu Mengmeng was still the one in charge of the cooking, while Elvis only washed the vegetables and cut the potatoes. He could only be considered as an assistant. It couldn't be helped. His cooking talent had already broken through the sky, and he could cook anything into a dark cuisine. The pot of black stewed fish with ginger and the rabbit that had been roasted into a tire had left a lingering fear in her heart. She really did not have the courage to try again. After they were full, Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng back into the warm blanket, then washed the pot and boiled another pot of ginger water. This was the only recipe he had mastered so far. A pot of water, 2 slices of ginger, cook for a day. Gu Mengmeng patted the side of the bed, signaling Elvis to come up and sleep with her. After Elvis warmed himself up, he laid down beside her and used his arm as a pillow under her head. He lowered his head and quietly watched her fall into a deep sleep. Gu Mengmeng, who was in his arms, slept peacefully like a child. She was defenseless and peaceful. His long eyelashes formed a silhouette under his eyes, and his even breathing was hotter than usual, presumably because he had not recovered from his cold. Her warm breath landed on Elvis's chest, and waves of numbness spread throughout his entire body. His nostrils were filled with the sweet scent of her body. She was clearly as quiet as an angel, but Elvis could not help but have some kind of reaction. Aside from the topic, "Thank you to Xiaoxiang's baby, Big Banyan Tree, for your recommendation vote then, what am I going to write in the next section? Are you guys mentally prepared?" Chapter 220. Elvis's breathing became heavier. The strange changes in his body made Elvis very uneasy. He felt that something was stirring in his blood. He instinctively wanted to turn around and press Gu Mengmeng down to bully her fiercely. But this little one was still sick and he could not bear to disturb her sleep. Moreover, he remembered. She said, she doesn't want to mate. Elvis tried his best to control his own emotions. He wanted to stop himself from letting his imagination run wild. But Gu Mengmeng was in his arms and there was really nothing else in this cave that could divert his attention. He suddenly could not remember how he spent those long years before he met Gu Mengmeng. Lowering his head, Elvis placed his lips on Gu Mengmeng's forehead and kissed her carefully. He had clearly done this countless times when she was awake. And it was done openly and naturally. He was very sure that Gu Mengmeng did not reject this kind of kiss. But at this moment, because of this little stolen kiss, his heart was surging and he could not control himself. His blood was boiling in his body and Elvis could feel it. After this kiss, his blood was like the boiling ginger water in a pot. That heat almost evaporated his entire body. Elvis frowned. He had wanted to make use of this smell to satisfy himself. But now, it seemed like he had outsmarted himself. Not only did the fire in his heart not weaken, it burned even more vigorously. It had become the flame devil in his spiritual world and he could not resist it at all. Gu Mengmeng moaned unknowingly. She was unhappy that her sleep was disturbed. She pushed away the thing poking at the top of her knees in protest. But that unknown thing stubbornly bounced back to its original position. It was even more panicky than before. Gu Mengmeng twisted her body. She wanted to find a comfortable angle to avoid that annoying thing and continue sleeping. But she did not know what kind of torture her unconscious movement was to Elvis. The feeling of exploding on the spot. So this was what it felt like? Gu Mengmeng realized that no matter how she adjusted her position, she could not avoid that thing that was hindering her sleep. She moaned even louder. Her eyebrows were squeezed together and she looked like she was about to cry but could not. It was as if she was playing the song Ambush from 10 Sides on Elvis's already tense nerves. Elvis used his hands to hold Gu Mengmeng in place, not allowing her to continue provoking the fire in his heart. He said in a low, hoarse voice, "Stop fooling around, I don't want to break my promise to you." Gu Mengmeng replied in a daze. Elvis took a deep breath and looked at Gu Mengmeng, who was obviously still asleep with her eyes closed. He said as if he was talking to himself, "I promised you that I will only pledge my loyalty to you when you are willing to mate with me. I want to keep every promise I made to you, so, stop pestering me, go to sleep, and stop messing around." Gu Mengmeng did not know if she understood Elvis's words, but she gradually quietened down. But even if she did not move at all and fell asleep like a porcelain doll, her allure to Elvis did not diminish at all. He desperately wanted to have her, so he hugged her even tighter and pulled the distance between them infinitely closer until it was negative. Elvis knew that he should shatter the snow blocking the entrance with one punch, then go out to cool down in the cold wind. But he also knew that Xiao Meng could not be left out in the cold anymore. Moreover, he could not bear to let go of her. This kind of torment seemed to have made him addicted and he was willing to sink into it. Digression, once again, I feel that I am not her biological mother. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.